budget can I get? Our biggest thing this
Good
year.
evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag.
There's.
Like, I don't know where
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the next item would be the approval of agenda.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Motion made and second. Thank you.
I would like to add in between number 9 and number 10 the need for an executive session before we get into the committee reports.
Okay. So we'll add that in there. That'd be between 9 and 10, you said?
Yeah, before we get into the committee reports.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Do I have any other changes, additions, deletions? All right. With that added in with an executive session, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. And public input and announcements. Do we have anything? Ken?
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year. I'm Ken Fredette from Wallingford. Kind of like coming home again here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to say two things, and neither one of them are here, but first, being thank you to Adrian Raymond, and perhaps I'll have another opportunity to say this, but I thought since it was in Wallingford, I would be here. For her many years of tireless service as a public servant, Adrian's efforts over the years have always reflected the highest standard of fair leadership and maintaining grace under fire on occasions. The students and taxpayers of the Mill River District, as well as the entire state of Vermont, have benefited from her hard work, and I feel privileged to have worked side by side with her for many years. Best wishes to her and Ed for health and happiness in the future. You have earned it. The second thing is to ask the board to please consider these documents a formal complaint of violation of 3 provisions of Board Policy B3, Board Member Conflict of Interest, by Bruce Martin on several occasions. Further, I request open discussion of this to be on the agenda at the next regularly scheduled meeting or a special meeting called specifically for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Adrian, you just missed my kudos. You want a copy of it?
Sure. Thanks. The roads were lovely. It really was time perfect.
Thank you for your years of service.
You're welcome.
Basically what I said.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ken.
There's just one there. I burned a little paper on this.
And Pam has a copy.
Yes, Pam has a copy.
Is that everything, Ken?
Yeah, you know, and I think I'm going to see myself out. But thank you. You all have a lot of fun tonight.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Ken. Any other public comments this evening? Hearing none, we will move along to board discussion of public comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up about it?
There's quite a bit to read there. So
Yeah,
I didn't expect anything tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Ken. Thank you. So we will.
Can I just ask, so should we expect to read Ken's memo and then discuss this at our next meeting of the full board?
Yes, I was understanding he asked that we add it to the agenda for the next board meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Two asks. One is at the next board meeting or a special meeting be called.
Yes, which I believe in order to call a special meeting, you need 4 board members. Thank you. All right, so approval of minutes from December 21st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second? Are there any additions, deletions, corrections from said minutes? Hearing none, I move to,
There's just one. It's a autocorrect. It's a Squire. It's annoying that it autocorrects to the wrong thing. I
Fix
changed
it every
my-
time.
I know. It's down. It's at the top is good. It's one of the motions down there. I do not take personal offense. I know the computer is against me.
Apparently me as well.
well, with one correction being made, all in favor? The is unanimous. The minutes from 12/21 are approved. Wallingford update.
All right. So good evening. Welcome to Wallingford. Our teachers will be sharing some of the awesome happenings and learnings that are going on in their classroom. So we have this slide presentation, and we'll just have each teacher present their grade level. We do have some staff that aren't going to make it. They live up in the mountains, and conditions are pretty bad. I'm hearing even snowing already up in Killington with icy roads.
It's
so,
icy.
to be
Coming down from
expected.
Shrewsbury to go.
Yeah, yep. So I'm going to get this up here real quick and let them jump right in. But before we do that, I do want to do a quick introduction myself of my staff because I love them dearly. Let's see here. How are you doing? All right. We're live. So I'm going to start from lowest and go up who's here. So our pre-K teacher who's going to support us in presenting tonight is Miss Tiffany Martin. And then we have our kindergarten teacher, Shannon Merritt. And then our first grade teacher who's new to us this year, Alice Martin. And then we have our third grade teacher, Wojtek Worsbicki, and then our fourth grade teacher, Rachel Patch.
Awesome.
So thank you for coming tonight. And I will let you just jump right up in the order that these pop up.
Okay.
And I'll scan to the next slide as you let me go. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so this is our overview. So last year, some of us participated in what we call the ELNIC, the Early Literacy Network Improvement Community. And you all might have heard about this because some of the other teachers in the other buildings have also been doing this. So we have taken a lot of information and learning from this, and we are using some of the ideas in our classrooms to help support literacy in our classrooms in pre-K through third grade. Next, please. So our one of our goals, in pre-K we have lots of goals, but what came out of our ELNIC was that by the end of pre-kindergarten, all children will be able to plausibly represent in writing the first sound in most words in a personally meaningful text. It's a very lofty goal, and we are working really hard to do that. And one strategy that we're using is called print referencing read aloud. So when we're reading, we will, point to the words, and there'll be signs in a story. There's a sign that will say, Santa's workshop or something, and oh look, there's the sign, and this is what it says. And we will know if this strategy, among others, are working when the students are able to do this by the end of their 4-year-old preschool year. So here are some pictures of us. So here we are with a book box. So this is Chicka Boom Boom, one of our favorites, classic story. And we read the book, and we have little blocks with, so these little blocks have letters on them, and we're playing with the letters and experiencing them with our hands and our bodies and our minds. And then there's another book box here, and then here we are after snack every day, reading, kids in my lap, kids by themselves, kids with each other. So just really experiencing books and really just loving them, because that's where it starts, is loving good stories. So, Shannon?
So for my area in kindergarten, at the beginning of the year, we used some assessment data from the individual decoding inventory, and it showed that an area of growth for kindergarten in particular was not only knowing letter names and sounds, but how to use them to read and write words. So stemming from this NIC work, the new end of year goal for kindergarten is for all students to be able to read and write any regular CVC words, so your short vowel words. And should you go to the next slide, please? So to address this goal, me personally, I'm using a new approach to the scope and sequence to teaching letters and sounds. There's a link to it for more information on what that scope and sequence looks like, in order to get students into blending and segmenting CVC words a lot sooner. Because even though they're 5 years old, they are more than capable of learning these. And then in addition, I am also using the change idea of incorporating more interactive writing in my daily instruction, which is all research-based practice, and this will help support my students even more in learning their letters and sounds and how to read and write these words. So the one in the middle was a Veterans Day project that we ended up bringing to the local American Legion, so just having that authentic audience, and then just a couple daily practices as well. So that's for kindergarten.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alice Martin, and like Dan said, I teach first grade here. It's my first year. And so in first grade, we also use the individual decoding inventory, similar to what Shannon shared. And we found that in first grade, our students need more practice with their phonics. And so to address that with a research-based practice, we are going to use something called decodable text. So decodable text gives students some extra practice with phonics patterns that they learn in class, and they require students to look more closely at the text rather than with traditional leveled books where they can kind of guess using predictable patterns and using pictures from the books. If you go to the next slide for me, Dan. These are some examples of decodable texts that we use in the classroom, and if you want to learn more about why and how we use decodable text, there's a link there to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you.
For second grade, we know our students are growing in math facts because of our focus on fact fluency. It's something that they do every single day. They're just drilling through their math facts. We also know our students need support in phonics because we've got struggling readers who have difficulties with decoding. I'm going to put, I'll put a plug in when I do my presentation, but to support our students, we plan to continue to use the F&P phonics programs as well as supplemental materials as word building lists that focus on specific sequences in patterns such as the CVC, constant vowel, constant CVCC, all those constant blends, digraphs, R-controlled vowels. We'll know if the strategy is successful if students are growing in their F&P reading levels, and they're successful with decoding during running records, and they're growing in spelling. And then here's a couple links in there, and I can share this with anyone who's able to share it with everyone.
And if you get it to Pam or I, will get it in the minutes.
Perfect. And then grade 3, Mr. Wisby.
Good evening. My name is Wojtek Rzdicki, and it is my second year here teaching third grade. So I chose to focus on ELA and literacy. We know our students are growing in comprehension and concept understanding because of class discussions and oral and written assessments, although reading questions and answer choices is necessary for this class as we have many, many challenges in decoding phonics and fluency. We know that our students need support in those areas. 12 out of 15 of our students receive some sort of IEP services or reading intervention through EST. And with our fall FFP and STAR 360 results, 14 out of our 15 third graders were below grade level in reading. Next slide, please. So to support our students...
Can I pause there real quick? I'm sorry.
Of course.
We talked a lot about that third grade cohort across the district when we looked at district numbers at our last meeting. So that's not necessarily a Wallingford piece. That's something we've seen across the board.
So to support our students, we plan to continue providing intervention services and IEP services that are specific to individual goals and needs. To do that, we are utilizing a group model in our ELA block. It is a rotating model with 3 groups, which are grouped according to the phonics patterns that they need to master. So when we use this model, also adding an interventionist to push in during that block, we can provide tier 1 and 2 MTSS interventions in the classroom, with the hopes that any learning gaps are closed and students can progress with their reading levels. We will know if these strategies are successful if the individual goals of our IEP students are met, and if we can progress students to test eventually out of EST intervention, and if we can see progression in our winter FNP and STAR 360 assessments. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, 4th grade, Miss Patch.
All right. I did not do the literacy stuff that all of they did. So I get my own category. Haha. It's also combined with 6th grade because me and Barb are both doing a focus this year, working with Ann our librarian, to collaborate when we do our project-based learning. And I'm hoping to get 2 new projects in this year. 2 I did last year and 2 new ones, because I'm noticing this group needs to grow in, what did I say? Writing. That I saw in their PLPs, which we also do with Ann Oz. Their style of writing, spelling errors, incomplete sentences, disorganized thoughts, and they can tighten that up in their projects when they're presenting and writing and developing. And reading comprehension. So, the STAR 360, 60% of my group was below grade level. So getting those nonfiction texts for, we've got a revolution unit. We just started our U.S. regions. That was big exciting today. And then Middle Ages and something that's not coming to me. Yeah. Thanks. There's the project-based learning part. You can probably flip back to the part. Anyway, I'll just do mine. So we're focusing on social studies, Middle Ages, Revolution, geography. With focus of geography, because that's the one we're starting right now with the 5 U.S. regions. And we're working with Anne. She's helping me get the sites and the books as the resources that are strong age level, but challenge them a little to get that good factual information without just Googling and copy and pasting Wikipedia. They try, but they cannot. So they're going to design a 3D map. Hopefully also working with our teacher, like last year, to get 3D maps that incorporate map features like title, compass rose, map key, and have climate, important cities, capitals, physical features, natural resources, major bodies of water. Yeah, and they're going to put it all on a map and present. And if anyone would like to represent the Southeast, Southwest, or Midwest, like you live there, hit me up. We need representation to ask good questions of those areas.
Southeast. You can sign me up.
Midwest.
Southeast.
Yes?
Midwest.
Great, because I've got Northeast and that's about it. I got Dan on the West. Yeah, so we need some. Love to have you all come in and watch. That's it.
Thank you. All right, in 6th grade, Barb Naughton is, like she noted, is doing similar thing, but working more along science and using the project base to bring up those areas as well, which is the whole intent behind project-based learning, because there's so many things you can pull into a project with all kinds of learning targets being met. So it's kind of cool, and the kids usually enjoy it. So Todd Gilman, looking at the STAR data, 50% of students score below grade level. For math, 42.85 of students scored at grade level, 7.15 scored above grade level, with 14 students total on that. So the following interventions were initiated and entitled as Challenge Math Class. So to teach math explicitly with concentration and foundational skills, add diet and small group math practice as a warm-up to Eureka Math, doing some of the dice play, flashcards, whiteboards, and the focus to increase rapid response of multiplication and division. This was something that school-wide, if you walk through classrooms during math, that's pretty much going on at one portion or another, because we identified that there was a high need for students to master those basic multiplication, addition skills so that they can apply those to the other concepts that they were learning that we could tell they were struggling in. Part of the things using is read, draw, write, the process where they read the problem, draw a picture that presents the model of the math problem. So teaching them skills directly that correlate to reading comprehension. So kind of doing a combo on there. 35.7% of students scored below average on the STAR. Also scored below average on the STAR math. So the reading and math, there was some correlation there. So closer analysis revealed that explicit teaching, the read, draw, write process, helped students that need support have greater levels of mathematical comprehension when attempting to solve problems. So asking students to share, compare, and connect solutions and reasoning enhanced comprehension and provided fluency. So really getting the students to think about what it is they're learning and to be able to explain how they're solving those problems. So success looks like students in January, which is right here, and we're going to be coming right around the corner next week, looking at starting a math for the STAR testing based on the interventions and strategies that were initiated, so we'll be able to tell through those results the impact on that. So I don't know if there's any questions that you want to fire out. I'm going to throw in my little bit after. Yep.
What is dyad?
Like two groups, kids working together in
Groups of
pairs.
A group. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes the CVC thing got me at first.
Consonant, vowel, consonant.
I did get that.
Yeah.
After I looked at it, it's like, I got it.
And that's why we tried to ban
Acronyms?
all those
Acronyms?
The acronyms for a while.
Never does.
So my update, I have a few acronyms in there too. So
Sorry.
Obviously, I feel like Brian had talked about district-wide. Third grade was kind of a hot spot. I think we all understand kids were ripped out of school when they were finishing up kindergarten, the crucial time where things really start to click and they really start to read, and then build on that in first grade. Well, they came back almost in first grade, but didn't until later in the year, and then they were sent home for restrictions, and then people who were getting sick, and classrooms being shut down. So, I mean, they've been just put through the ringer. And then second grade was rough because when we had students that were going home in the masses, because usually it was like almost entire grade levels, the state did not approve for us to do remote learning. So it was almost like a double whammy. That's what was kind of interesting last year, even though I think some of it was still happening, but in a roundabout way. There's just been a major impact all around. But social emotional learning is one of those big things that kids have just missed out on. Those usual basic social skills that they're learning day to day as they struggle through interactions and conflict and learn how to resolve that. They missed big chunks of their life to learn those things. So as a site, we're working on continuing morning meetings that are based on social emotional learning activities, which build the class culture together. It builds relationships between students and students and the staff. And then as a staff, we're doing moments of mindfulness. And I start most staff meetings with a moment of mindfulness. Every once in a while we're so busy I want to just like skip it and jump right into business. But then I realize just doing some self-reflection, I kind of need a moment of mindfulness. So then we do it as a whole staff, and so teachers have been doing that in their classrooms as I've been walking through. PBIS, part of that we incorporate is the PBIS is I'm going to draw a total blank. Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. My goodness, I'm like the PBIS guy for the last 10 years. Anyway, but we've called it the Wildcat Way. And we have our positive pause, so practice respect, accept responsibility, working together, and safety first. Oddly comes last, but it's our real main focus. But what we did this year is we're having some social skill focuses that we're working on that we feel students need more support in. And so we're doing like 2 weeks. It's kind of turned into almost a month to focus on a skill. So kindness was the first one that we rolled out. Now we're working on self-control, and oddly enough, that applies in like every single instance. So it's been really cool. And then we've been able to now have school-wide assemblies again. So we brought that back on our early release days. We do that in the morning where the whole school comes into the multi-purpose room, and we present the Wildcat of the Week, an award for being basically the epitome of whatever the focus area is. So that's been pretty cool and exciting. We started the reset room. I think I talked a little bit about this, but it's just an area that kids can either self-advocate or teachers can advocate for them to go and take a break. There's some little card activities they can do in there, and then that's followed up with a staff member, usually myself or our counselor, and we just spend a little time to reflect with them and then get them ready to go return back to class as quickly as possible. And that's been an evolution. So we had some different activities and almost like brain teaser things, but we realized some of the kids wanted to go there more so than math or something like that. So we've been reflecting on that and making adjustments, and it's becoming, I would say, more effective. Our PTO is back in full force. So some of you were able to come here and participate in the Holiday Craft Fair, which was phenomenal, major turnout, so that was really cool. And there's a bunch of other things that are going on that they're working like really well together, and it's awesome. It's been really great seeing that come back. So it's like bringing Wallingford back to life, like the whole community, not just the school. So that's been exciting. We have been doing some support staff assignment adjustments based on student needs. So like third grade, for instance, has high needs. We've got a pair that's in there, but we also are having reading interventionists are pushing into third grade more so than they would typically in the past years, just because there's a high need for some of those word attack skills and phonics. First grade, we have one of our larger classes, and so we've made some adjustments, and we're still in the process of getting that fine-tuned. I have a meeting tomorrow with my special ed teachers, but we're trying to push a parent in there like full-time to really help support those kids and their needs, and also the teacher, so she can try to juggle 22 kids with a partner. And I just wanted to throw out how proud I am of our staff. I feel like I say this, I'm a broken record, and it feels to me like it's just, I'm just giving them lip service, but it's like, it is insane how phenomenal our staff is and how well they work together. The few weeks, pretty much 2 months, going up into Christmas break, there were mornings where I was texting Brian like, hey, we have 7 staff out today. I think we're going to pull it off, though, and we do. Like
That Thanksgiving to winter break stretch hit everybody.
Yeah, it was. And which what the challenge was, obviously, other sites sharing substitutes. The substitutes would attempt to come to work, and then they were getting sick, and so it was like all hands on deck. Everyone was going above and beyond their responsibilities. We had some people that were sick, but they're like, I'm still going to join this EST meeting from home, just because they have that passion and they just want to do what's best. And I didn't hear any grumbling in it. So I'm like, these guys are awesome. So thank you, kudos to all of you who are here tonight, and then those who aren't here. We have a fabulous staff and teamwork. We're living it and breathing it here. So, any questions?
Sorry.
Mine's totally off topic, of course.
Well, mine's. So we heard that there's like a lot of expectations that you're both the teachers are requiring to learn new things, do research-based things, and do you feel like, and this isn't necessarily an answer you have to give me right away, that like you're getting the resources and the needs to actually like implement the stuff of the new researching of the things, of saying the kindergartner should be at a certain spot. Are they going to be there? And if not, what are the things, if there is anything, that you can do to help that? And this is not, you don't have to answer right off, because that's like a big question, and but it is something to think about, and especially when we come back.
More time, more money, more people.
I understand, but we need to hear that advocacy. Otherwise, everything is peachy, right? And so it's like, because we can hear lots of things that are against more time, more money, more research, but we also need to hear the positive parts about why we need to be advocates for that.
I would love to answer that question in kind of a roundabout way.
Yep.
just looking at not just my individual classroom, but the scope of the school, social emotional learning has so many behavior needs in this building, as I'm sure in other buildings as well. If I could ask the board to consider at a future time, possibly considering a full-time behavior interventionist to be on staff here, I think that would go a long way into, kind of taking the pressure off of Dan and then teachers and support staff. That way we, as a team, can actually focus on those academic challenges and kind of lighten the load with having somebody in you to deal with the behavior challenges.
Yeah, the reset room we're collecting data on, and right now we're like, what does it mean? Because there's so many factors that play into a student coming to the reset room. But I'm bringing it to each staff meeting, just like an update. These are the number of students that we've had check in. And a lot of times I'm not even available there to reflect with a kid and get them back to class because I'm working with another kid that's refusing to even come to the reset room or the classroom. I know I've had some conversations with Brian and with Jody, and we're looking at an increase of Phil Hall, who's our current behavior specialist, interventionist, who's been a major godsend. But there's only so much of him, and there's so many students and so much.
And that's
he's spread between several sites, right?
That's grant funded, and that's something that our schools, as we were doing that work, getting groups together to look at ESSER funding, how were we going to use it, getting input. That was clearly something that we saw a need for. That funding goes through next year. So it's a very relevant conversation as we do budget work next year. Otherwise that's going to go away. And you're hearing people asking for more time.
CFP.
Oh, are we looking for longer term grant funding?
No.
Okay.
Phil's out of CFP.
The CFP. Oh, okay.
So there's two different grants. There's the ESSER one that runs away.
Thank you.
And then there's the one that we do every single year out of title funds. That's why it's so important for every single parent to fill out those free and reduced lunch forms.
Yep.
Because it's not just about the lunch. It's
Yep.
about things like this program. But Phil is funded out of that, so it doesn't, I just don't want Phil to hear this and think
So
it
there's
goes away.
less of a, thank you. Less of a cliff for that position, but we never know how much funding we're gonna get. We would love to maintain that longer term and using those title funds, Title I, Title II, Title IV. Those are more consistent than the ESSER. Some of the positions we have, like high school intervention, that's an ESSER one. So that one's got more of a cliff coming faster. It is something I think we should be thinking about no matter what long term. Are we going to rely on grant funding for the foreseeable future and see how much comes our way? Or do we need to think about putting those in local budget?
Can I just make a quick suggestion about the forms in an effort to increase the likelihood that they're completed by parents? Are they, I don't know, my son is no longer at Wallingford Elementary. So now his paperwork comes home with him and I have to rely on him to give it to me. I end up fishing it out of his bag. Is it possible to allot time during open house so that we can say to parents, this is why we're asking you to fill it out. Oh, and we've allotted 15 minutes for you to do it now. Oh, and there's juice and there's cookies, so sugar up, get it done. I don't know, would that increase?
Here are copies, here are pencils.
Right.
If you need help, let us know. I think, yeah, that's a good suggestion, absolutely. And I think we're going to hit an interesting scenario, too, where it's always been important to have those forms to get that funding. For several years, meals have been free for everyone. So actually, those forms haven't been as important for families because whether they filled it out or not, meals were free. But for us, there are a lot of other things that come with those forms being completed. Those title funds actually are by the student. Dollars follow each student. So if we had 10 fewer students complete them, we would get, each student we'd lose funding for. Adrian?
Can we try, I don't know if it's allowable to sort of reformat the form? I mean, or at least to add other language, because right now people read free and reduced lunch stuff and they immediately think, well, I don't need that, I don't have to fill out that form.
Yeah.
If we could somehow, even if we had a cover page or something that we added, like a banner that just masked that and had a different explanation, this is economic information that we need from every family so that we get the proper amount of grant funding. you know, without addressing whether or not it's for free and reduced
'Cause
lunch, and I mean,
I think there's a stigma attached to it, and some people go, no, we don't need that.
right, but if
We're
we,
doing
if we
okay.
covered
Yeah.
some of that with something big, we need this information to get grant funding,
I think.
and then handed it out.
We can't change the form because it's a state.
Right.
But we do usually send home a cover letter that says the benefits of it. Those are different in each grade or each school, so maybe we could look at centralized.
Like big letters, you know?
like in the high
Not so much
school,
reading.
I'm getting what Adrian's saying. So when you get it, you get the form. It's like this, but is it stapled and covering this section of the form that says?
We need this.
Because if
Yeah.
it's not covering this section that says free and reduced, mentally, each person looks at it and goes,
Well-
"Yes, I need this," or "No, I don't need this."
And no, I don't want to be associated with it.
You could attach a half-sheet flyer to the
Right.
top of the form.
Right, just a camouflage,
Sure,
you know?
So be a little more strategic, which, you know, the cover letter might go home with it.
Right.
That's
We
right
could be a
here.
little
So
more
if it goes home
strategic.
with it. Now you're.
Yep.
Right.
The thing about the paperwork is there are lots of people who are going to look at that and say, yeah, I'm not reading that. It's too much text.
Right, that's why just a quick flyer. We need this.
Yep.
Well, which is why I think it should be,
Oh,
let's
definitely.
all
I-
do this together.
I like that, but not everybody
Can I help?
comes.
Yeah, that's
you
also-
know?
I know,
Yeah.
Yes, but-
yeah,
all the things.
All
But-
the
I do
things,
everything,
right? All of it.
everything.
Two different strategies that are
Yeah.
going to reach two different populations,
Yep.
maybe. So both, I
Absolutely.
think, good ideas.
I would just add, so I do think multiple different strategies. We do have all the schools staple something onto there. At the secondary level, if you're ever talking to parents on that, I think it's really important for the entire board to know. It's not only our title funds, it's not only food. Those forms for families who qualify mean free SATs, free college applications, and significant help with FAFSA. And so all of those things are really an important piece. Now, we do try to share that out, and we can always do better, right? Because obviously we're not doing enough because we don't have all of them. But those are important things for everyone to know.
Any of that stuff home electronically too? I mean, I know from having 3 kids go
So,
through Mill
yes.
River, the minute they hit 7th grade, you don't see anything anymore.
We send it home in the.
It's just gone.
It's in her bag in a wad.
Oh, I know that, but sometimes it doesn't even come home, because I had kids in
I'm not the
classes
only
going,
one.
no, Mom, we pick it up at the teacher's desk and throw it in the trash.
Can-
You know, I mean,
Send it home
it
in the
happens.
online newsletters for
Okay.
like 3-4 cycles.
And can I pause this conversation, because we've started
Yeah,
having a
yeah.
big conversation and we're not asking
attention.
good questions. And if we want to let them
Mine-
all go home,
Mine
let's do
isn't a
that.
question,
But
but more of a statement. Thank you.
Yeah.
You all sound like you're doing fabulous. I just want to reiterate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Ditto.
And I think you heard some things from them today that you heard from other schools too. Some specific strategies, the LNIC work, we heard from Clarendon folks, which is great to hear different schools partnering and doing that work. You heard that they know where their students are struggling. Not everybody's doing great, and they're aware of where their students are struggling. They're giving you concrete strategies that they're using, and some folks even shared that they're using new strategies this year, and they're tracking to see how those are working. If they're working great, let's put more in those strategies. If they're not, let's find the ones that do. I think that's important. And I also, another trend is you're hearing about assessments from them that we never talk about. Because there are assessments that they use daily and weekly that gives them tons of great information, and those are those leading indicators. They know weekly if their students are making growth. We keep looking at those lagging indicators, and it's 5 years worth of work, and we're seeing the results. So I think it's great to be able to hear that information from them, because what I give you is slightly different data that gets used slightly differently. Huge thanks to all our educators. And we know you have a lot on your plate, so if you want to go home, thank you.
Thank you.
Lesson planning.
So careful. So sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
night.
Good night, thank you.
I'm like, okay.
All right, so moving along, the next thing on the agenda would be the equity update.
I'll make it super quick. So the last time that we had just a quick equity update that was related to the board equity policy, Mr. Doucette had just asked if I could touch base with the equity committee and come back to you talking about an updated 3-year equity plan that was representative of what we're doing this school year. So I just wanted to make sure, we got 2 pages? Yeah. To follow through on that. And so this might be familiar to some of you if you've been on the board for a while, but in 2020 we made this 3-year equity plan, and it was up on our website for a while. We've been doing some website revamps, so it hasn't been on there for a bit now, but it's still a document within our system, and I really appreciate just making sure that we're being accountable to the things that we say we're going to do, and being open and transparent when we do need to switch course. Because of just, when we wrote this, we did not know the pandemic would last for 3 years and might still be,
Lingering.
Yeah. So just very, very quickly, the equity committee did review this, and so I just wanted to share what we're currently doing. So originally we thought we'd be doing a lot more explicit equity work in our professional development sessions this year. 3 years down the line, we're really focused on curriculum coordination. We feel strongly that that still has an equity lens because high quality tier 1 instruction is most important for our most at-risk students. And all of the equity work that we have done in the past few years have really helped us to think about who we're representing in our curriculum and making sure when we are designing high quality curriculum that we're designing curriculum where every single Mill River student sees themselves in that work, and that's really important. So we still use our curricular overlay tool, but this year we're really just focused on making sure we have high quality coordinated curriculum. And as you heard the teachers who are down in the trenches every single day say, the pandemic's been really hard on kids, and we're seeing a lot of social emotional needs. And so a lot of our professional development this year has been focused on trauma-informed practices. For example, we were doing coordinated curriculum with the secondary staff so far this year and plan to really let them have a lot of time in departments. But the social emotional needs are so high at Mill River that we've switched to doing CPI verbal de-escalation training for the rest of the year with that whole staff. So trauma-informed training also has an equity lens to it. Curriculum and content, as I said, we just continue to support teacher work to think about who we're representing and how to do that best. So today, the K1 and 2 teachers were out of their classrooms together for the whole day with Dr. Bosch and myself. And one of the things that we talked about was the Louisiana Believes units that we have been using now as a district for, I think, 7 years. Some of them, with our equity lenses, still hold up as being wonderfully representative. Other ones we might want to look at again. So for example, we're looking at the Whipping Boy, which is a very classic story, but in today's day and age might not be as resonate with kids as well as something we might be able to find that would do the same thing. Where are we? Systems and structures, that's all about us guys and you guys, and we're pretty much chugging along with that. So the LT is completing a variety of trainings, including Title IX training, restorative practices. We, every single year in August, we get together and look at our handbooks and make sure that we're really using our lens, because equity work is never check done. It's just like every single year when we know more, we realize what we still don't know, what more we have to do, and we try to do better. And throughout the year, we're frequently checking in on our data to look at, so for example, I just asked Kaylin and Karen to share their spreadsheet of discipline data at the secondary level with me the other day, and then I coded all of their disciplinary consequences, either restorative or traditional. And I sent that data on to a couple of you, but it was really great. It was like 60 to 70% of the consequences at Mill River were restorative in nature. And I just want to give a plug that is because of that leadership team. It's because of the work that grant-funded positions like our Dean of Students and our behavioral coach are able to do, because it takes much more time to do good restorative work than it does to say you're out of school for 3 days, right? But I don't learn by being shamed. Most people don't learn by being shamed. And so what we want to do is we want to teach our kiddos how to own mistakes, how to repair relationships, and how to do better, because they're hopefully going to be our neighbors for the next 50 years. And so we want them to be their best possible selves.
Just a quick question, and I'm sorry. It says the learning team will complete annual training around HHB policies.
Yeah.
What's HHB?
Sorry.
No, that's
More
okay.
acronyms. So hazing, harassment, and bullying.
Okay.
And so that's an interesting data point, Len, because before the pandemic, we would do like 40 of those at the secondary level a year and about 10 at the elementary level. During the pandemic, they went way down, and we thought a massive amount of that was that kids couldn't get within 6 feet of each other, and it makes it much harder to bully. So we expected this huge jump this year, and it hasn't happened. And so what we're looking at, to be completely transparent, is why.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing huge social emotional needs, but we're seeing a decrease in hazing, harassment, and bullying. So we're looking at it like, where are there potential breaks in our systems and structures? Does every single kid know who they can report that to? So like at the secondary level, Kaylin and Karen and I sat down and said, what could be a barrier? And what we decided is that we want to have all three of our eyes screen anything that comes to one of them as a report, to make sure it's not hazing, harassment, and bullying, and we're just not catching a piece of it. So instead of just one person making that decision, we're going to put multiple eyes on it. So, we're looking for where our own holes are. We know we're not perfect at it.
Well, you can also, in my opinion, you can publicize who kids can go to, so that they actually, literally post it on the wall.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that will help.
That's a great point, because we have it on the website, but that's not where kids are looking,
No.
right?
They're going
That's
down
a great
the hallway.
point. We should get it in the hallway next to those see something,
Yeah.
say something posters.
And have it in every classroom. I mean,
Does that training also cover virtual?
Cyberbullying?
Yeah.
Yep. And we have a great model policy on that. It came down from the state. I am really proud of the fidelity our team uses when we do open an investigation with that, but, we're always looking at it for how we can do better. All right, and one of the goals was board will adopt a statement of inclusivity, so just kudos to you guys, because you got your part done. We continue to work on representation in the hallways and the classrooms. We want all of our kids representing all of the things that are important to them to be seen in our spaces. And from the student eye view, which is the most important one, we're working on getting student feedback on restorative practices and our equity-focused needs. So the only formal group we have in our district is what's now called Better Together. And that was a GSA with the enrollment was pretty low. Kids stated that a barrier to that was they felt like showing up in that room during the time when other kids knew there was a GSA was putting them in a place they weren't comfortable with. So one thing that other GSAs in the state said was you could try renaming, so that maybe people who would like to come might feel like they had more access. So we're trying that. We're trying to link up with other GSAs in the community so that kids feel solidarity outside of our district. The GSA continues with their bulletin boards that we talked about with symbols of inclusivity, where every single month they're updating for a different version of history. So what's currently up right now is Indigenous American history. But they'll be changing it up soon because we're already in January.
Yeah.
So really huge focus on restorative practices is the big piece right now, and making sure when we coordinate curriculum, we don't forget the representational pieces. Questions, comments, or
I'm slowly sneaking.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you so
Yeah,
much,
thanks.
Jody.
All right, thank you very much. Moving along would be draft budget.
I think that's me. Is that me? Probably.
You can dive in,
That's
absolutely.
empty, so I'm not gonna worry too much about it. All right, I have to find my document. Okay, good evening, everyone. The fiscal year '24 proposed budget sees a spending increase of 6.38%. This represents $1.18 million and compares to a projected statewide spending increase of 8.52%. Act 173 shifted $610,000 to our local budget this cycle as it changed special education funding to a block grant. This accounts for roughly half of the expenditure budget increase. The per pupil equalized spending increase in our proposed fiscal year '24 budget is 14.47%, which reflects a 9% spending grant increase and a 4.75% equalized student decrease. The tax commissioner is recommending a property yield that would result in a district rate of $1 and I don't know how to say this, 36 cents, but it's 3617 cents. So I'll say it like that. $1.3617 for fiscal year '24. A rate decrease of 1.55% from the current year. The governor also recommends that the legislature apply all of this year's surplus to reducing property taxes in fiscal year '24. As of the commissioner's December 1st letter, there was more than $63 million in surplus money in the state education fund. This budget cycle, we have an opportunity to make quality investments in our schools that are both responsible in light of tax implications for taxpayers and responsive to the needs of our schools, our students, and their families. I would like to quote the 30th President of the United States and Vermonter Calvin Coolidge, who said, "Education is the one thing which we cannot afford to curtail." So, with that being said, I move that we accept and approve the expenditure budget of $19,826,555.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
I'm sorry.
All good.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
What'd you say?
You're a long ways away.
Okay.
Any questions on process? Any questions on what's in there or how we got where we got?
We've crunched a lot of numbers. We've done a lot of analysis. We've done a lot of work.
And we've had people join our finance meetings too. I know Len, Nick, you joined us at least once. Adrian, you've joined us. You're on finance. You're on finance, yeah. Sorry about that.
I did join you, but I was supposed
Yes,
to.
you were supposed to be there. We've had public input too, leading up to some of those meetings.
Right, we've held public forums. We've had a lot of good input.
And we made changes based on the things that we were hearing. That's the other part of it. Like, it wasn't created in a vacuum. We did try to do things like people asked us to do, where they want more input and things like that. So we made those attempts. I really do. And I think what we came up with is pretty good.
The budget is definitely very data driven and evidence informed as well.
I think if we just had every community member be on the finance committee, then everyone would understand. Because it took me being on it to actually comprehend all of it. That's good. And I still don't understand all of it.
It's very complicated. I've spent a long time and I'm still learning. So, if we're ready to take a vote, may I suggest that we do a roll call? Okay, so how does that work? Would Matt kind of manage that?
Facilitate that, or?
I don't know if
Or
it
would I
was
do
your
that?
motion, if you wanna.
Oh, I can,
Manage
yeah,
it?
I can certainly do that. So are folks comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, so I will start with Mr. Garland from Wallingford.
Affirmative.
Okay, sorry, I gotta actually make a little.
Do you want me to read?
I think I got it, but thank you so much. Mr. Doucette?
Yes, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, it's me.
Yes, it's you.
No on the budget.
You're voting no. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And do you know what Doucette means in French?
Decisive?
No.
Two of something.
It's like, no, it's like, it's sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like
said it's sweet.
dolce
Sweet
and
pie.
Italian kind
Yeah.
of. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Mr. Gaspar?
Voting yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Flanders?
Yes.
All right, I am a yes. Sam?
I am a yes.
All right. What's that?
I vote yes,
Okay, thank you, Adrian.
but I do have to say something. Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you. And Josh?
Yes.
Okay. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses and 1 no. So the motion passes. Thank you very much, everyone. And Adrian, I have other motions that I'd like to make.
Oh, I just wanted to say, everybody knows that I'm leaving the board, and I'm very hesitant about this budget. And I totally understand how it got developed, and I respect that, and I voted yes. I implore this board to start doing the hard work of figuring out how our schools are going to run 5 years from now. And we have not addressed it yet. We've tried in different years to have those conversations. But I think you're going to have a hard time in some communities passing this budget. And it's the money we need to run the schools the way we want to. It's not enough to run the schools the way we want to. But it's going to get hard to be passed. And I think we need to start having the conversations with the entire community on what we want for our school system. I will happily take part in those conversations, not on the board, obviously, but I really do think it needs to start now, before we are in a position where no budget passes.
And it's not going to get easier.
No, it's going to be harder next year. Money's disappearing.
This was a challenging year, and it's
Yeah.
going to continue to be challenging.
And we have needs that we're not filling.
Yep.
So that's my speech.
And if I could, I voted no. And I have a couple of reasons, and when I was in the finance committee, I mentioned those. But I want to emphasize how hard the folks on the committee worked and how much I appreciate that. My no vote is not a reflection on what you have done. It's a reflection on me personally, what I think about the budget. And that's it. And I don't want anybody to think that this is a personal thing. And again, I was there. I know how hard you folks worked. And I was a part of the process, and I appreciated that. But I'm a Clarendon taxpayer, and sometimes I have to make decisions based on what my constituents say to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for that.
Take a second to add a little bit to what Adrian said. When the budget was put forth, everyone worked extremely hard to put forth a fiscal sound budget, which very appreciative. I went to a meeting and a half. It was great to go through the process. The school needs this amount of money to function as it does today. As the state puts forth double-digit healthcare increases every year, every year forward's going to get difficult. As the towns, and I'll just say this so it's on record, want home ec, they want shop class, they want these other classes that aren't in the budget now, budget goes up.
We have bigger conversations to be had.
Absolutely.
For sure. But this year, we started our budget conversation earlier, and I think we had more points of discussion. We need to start even earlier and have even more points of discussion next year. We gotta address that question.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. And with that said, I am going to make my second of 3 motions. I move to authorize the district to transfer the audited, unanticipated surplus funds remaining at the end of the fiscal year 23 budget to the building sinking fund, not to exceed $250,000.
And I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Sam. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Do we want to do a roll call with this? That's probably not necessary. So all those in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. We're so good with raising our hands thanks to COVID. All right. So that is, how many are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yays, no nays. Thank you, folks. The motion passes. My last of 3 motions is I move to authorize the district to transfer current surplus funds to the athletics budget, not to exceed $80,000.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Sam. Any discussion?
I think the only thing that with this money, especially when we're talking about like putting money into fields, is that part of, and I way back when this was my pitch for it too, is like this money has to also come with an operating plan of how to keep the fields, because there's no point in throwing money into a field and then, you know, even if it goes down to even like when are coaches on the main field, like, because there are times where you're in practice and you're running drills and stuff and you're gonna hurt the field. So it's not, we can't just be putting money into it. We also have to have the plan of how do we maintain that without having to put
the conversation that I had with Tim and with Kim, so buildings and grounds and athletic director, it was absolutely doable to maintain with low cost. So we wouldn't be coming back and saying, okay, now we need 20,000 to maintain, now we need 30,000 to maintain. That actually the big upfront cost is just getting them where they need to be. The maintenance pieces would be very minimal because actually we can't fertilize the main football field. So we'd be looking at doing some good maintenance within the existing budget, if that helps.
Is that because we're too near the river?
What's that? No, it's actually because we are a class, I'm not going to be right, 1 or 2, so I won't even say, we're a class 1 or 2 public water system at the high school. So because we are that public water system, we have to follow certain regulations. And while the regulations don't explicitly tell us that we can't fertilize, the regulations are written in a way that if we fertilized and there were ever issues, we would not be in good shape. So it seems prudent, and the advice from the officials we reached out to, it was, you could do that, but we would not recommend it at all. So.
Well, and I also think it's important that we're increasing the focus at the elementary level. I mean, it was nice to see kids in there playing basketball tonight.
Yeah.
So that's all a part of it as well. I think that's tremendous, because if we're expecting to have strong varsity and JV teams down the road, that starts here.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also every time we go to a meeting with a school, social emotional comes up every time. And being part of a team and dealing with conflicts at those scales is where you're developing those skills.
Absolutely.
So if you start at high school, that's too late. You know?
Yeah.
Can I just go back to that not fertilizing the athletic fields thing? Was there anything specific that they said? I mean, if you're going to maintain good turf, you really need to fertilize. Now, quite a while ago, we've gone away state by state, and I think all the states in New England, you don't get phosphorus. And so, you know, the 3 macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, there's no phosphorus. That's the thing they worry about going into waterways and so forth. But the other 2, I can see a problem with herbicides, you might not want to do any of that, but
Right.
you,
It's
you've
gonna
got
be
an
hard to
investment
maintain that
in
field.
seed and doing stuff. And it's just like saying, you're gonna grow good cattle, but you're not gonna feed them?
I think the biggest piece that they were looking at, and we can definitely look into it again, because I was not part of looking into it, and I don't know that anybody else looking into it was expert in the matter. The irrigation system and the watering seemed to be the largest piece of maintaining, so that a large cost would be getting a system put in so that we could more easily irrigate, so that it would have reasonable water even when we, hit a dry spell. That would cover some of the piece. If we can't fertilize, well, we better do that. That was the conversation we had at least.
Yeah, I mean, fertilization, what it does, you build healthy root systems, and then turf will withstand droughts and adverse conditions better because each plant is healthier.
Yeah.
That's my comment. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Because it's really hard for grass to grow, like especially because it's like you can't really do a mix, like because the solution would be, well, then you have to have some sort of other like nitrogen fixing things that are in the field, but then the quality of ball play and stuff goes down. So it's like,
yeah.
But it is I think you should double check on the fertilizer because it's like
we can go through.
Don't play because I played
again.
on that field a bunch this summer, and it if you seed it and even if you water it, I don't.
Yeah, and the cost shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well, it won't turn to hard pack if they're watering it regularly. Because that's what happens in summer on that field.
Yeah.
And it's like on concrete.
Yeah, but it's also it's like development of root systems and stuff like Paul was saying too. It's all tricky, and then it's like how much, like what, how high you mow, like, and then maintaining that height for the whole year is important and stuff. Like there's like
That does make a huge difference.
right, and so that's
And we did address the more regular mowing. That was the one thing we have.
Rather than let it get long and kill it by mowing it short.
And
Just
it always
leave it.
looks terrible too. Not that that's the most important thing, but you look out and see the whole, the ball field overgrown, yeah. Yep.
Well,
No, we can explore the
it's just
fertilizer
like this.
again. We can look into that for sure.
And it's just because it's like even the even the field that like when you pull it on the field that's on the left, like we ended up playing on that field for the end of the summer because teams had come back, and like that field is in significant, like that turf is really really nice. And I think it's because it gets used a lot less probably, but it's also there might be other things that are occurring on that field, and the grass was longer on that field. So
Yeah. Anecdotally, we left it sounds stupid, but we let our lawn grow like this tall every time this summer, and it's extraordinarily healthier. I mean, not it was like a little because it looks really nice and it lasts
but then you
longer.
can't play soccer on it.
This is
The
true,
problem.
but if you leave it like that all the time, you're not using it. Then it really gets much happier.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I don't like it, but it's not neat.
All right, I am going to call
No.
the question. All those in favor of authorizing the district to transfer current surplus funds to the athletic budget not to exceed $80,000, please say yay or raise their hand. Thank you, folks. That was 8 yays, no nays, so that motion passes. Thank you. And then I just am noticing that Andrea's name is on the ballot. And she's not here. So how do we want to broach signature?
Yeah, and I was thinking about that because, there are lots of scenarios where we can authorize Matt to sign, but her name's on it. So,
Did she just come in and sign it?
we just wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable with, we as the board are going to approve it, but then we're going to have Andrea sign it even though she isn't here. If everybody's comfortable with that, we just felt like it was worth bringing up to make sure we were all on the same page. Okay. Just thinking about how official that document is and trying to pay attention to detail.
Okay, super. So, thank you, folks. That's all I have for that. Thank you.
Oh, do we want a motion to approve the annual meeting warning?
Oh.
Do we need that?
Probably.
Doesn't hurt.
So, help me, if you would, with the wording. I move that we approve the draft
Warning
warning
for the annual meeting.
for the annual meeting. And that was in the,
It was in the board
tonight's
packet.
board packet.
And includes those 3 things that you just approved as the board.
Right.
And
So,
his name's on that.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Correct.
so I need a second
I'll
for that
second
motion,
that.
please.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sam. Any discussion about the language on the ballot? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate. So, thank you so much. And that is 8 yays and no nays. So that motion passes as well. Thank you
Can
very
we
much.
also state that we really hate the language that they mandate that we use? And that if anyone talks to any legislators,
Like change this.
it's terrible,
We
highly
mentioned that
destructive.
regional superintendents
I
met
know,
with
we
regional representatives, and we mentioned that it's a interesting thing to be, we're tied to that language, and we can't explain it any other way. That's what we have to use. We get a reprieve next
Miserable.
year, actually. We don't have to put that on next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the weighting, the pupil weighting is going to shift. So there are going to be scenarios where districts are going to get thrown for a loop with the weighting. So it doesn't seem appropriate for a district to have to say, here's how much our per pupil changed, when that was totally out of their hands. We seem to think that our pupil weighting effect is not going to be large. We're kind of a middle-of-the-road district when it comes to our funding numbers. So we probably won't have huge swings. If we had a huge population of English language learners or something like that, we could see a bigger swing, but, so, we'll see. But that's good feedback that the ballot language is in statute, and we need to call up our representatives to try and get that shifted.
It was like they designed it to fail.
Well, I think
Here, make it sound as miserable as we can.
the intention, I think, made sense maybe at the time of we should be paying attention to if costs are going up or not. But somehow costs keep going up no matter what, and it doesn't seem as representative as maybe it could be. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Next would be fiscal year '24 announced tuition for high school and elementary schools.
Good evening. Yes, we need to announce our tuition. The due date is January 15th, that we have to file with the state in regards to our, in regards to our announced tuition for next year. So I would ask the board to make a motion to announce the elementary tuition for FY '24 to be $17,800. That is a 6.27% increase over this year's current tuition rate of $16,750.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you. Now I would ask the board to make a motion to announce the tuition for the high school to be $19,000, which is a 9.2% increase over the current year rate of $17,400.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just say, do we anticipate any impact from the increase in terms of kids that are coming now that might?
Do we expect more tuition students in?
No, I'm asking whether the increase is going to have any impact on the total number of students that are coming or might come.
You disincentivize or?
Yeah, and I don't know how that reflects against everybody else. It's certainly in line with what we're saying our per pupil costs are.
In
I'm not even
theory,
going to attempt to answer it. I'll
well,
let you.
in theory, you would say no, because it's a parent and a student's choice to go to any school they want to choose if they don't have a high school.
Right.
The town or the board can't
Yeah, they can't.
influence their students to
Right,
go
that's
to
true. That's
a
true.
cheaper high school,
Yeah.
per se.
Yep, okay.
But there might be more push coming because of the religious schools question for districts to actually assign schools as part of school choice.
Maybe.
You know, for schools that don't have their own high school, that is one of the things that are getting pushed for.
Okay.
So we should be mindful of that next year.
Yeah, those would be.
Not this year.
Resolution. This year probably won't be going well.
Oh, right. We could write as a resolution, maybe in the future, that we would like to see the legislature define the purpose of the education tax to be solely for Vermont public schools.
But that's a good question.
Absolutely.
I know, we've talked about this. Please remind me.
It's not as easy as it sounds.
I know this.
But it's a good question. If our tuition rate keeps 2 or 3 students from coming our way, that's got a budget impact.
Right,
It does.
and if schools start, actually saying, prescribing which schools their kids can choose from,
we might need to.
you might have somebody saying, "Hey, that
Yeah,
school's
I have
expensive."
no
that
idea
school's
how
not
we
expensive."
stand in the orbit here.
Yeah, I don't think right now it's looked at because parents don't pay and
Yeah.
school districts don't really have say yay or nay.
But we do have a fairly large number of tuition students.
Right.
We do. So we could stand to lose a lot of students, maybe 35, 40 tuition students.
Oh, tuition students, this year we've got 74.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say I'm way off. I'm thinking just from the Mount Holly area alone is about 35 or so, right? Yeah.
But for the most part, it's not looked at.
No.
So.
Right.
But it is somewhat, like Pontney has competition with Granville. So they, for years, have always undercut their tuition rate to be able to keep those students in the.
The New York State subsidizes so much.
Right.
It's not even funny, the comparison. It's like 8,000 to 18,000.
Right, and that's why,
It's ridiculous.
that's why you'll see Pontney High
Yeah.
School with a $9,000
Right.
tuition. Their per costs are $20,000.
Thank you, Stan.
So, thank you. So, all in favor?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's unanimous. So I believe this is where you wanted us to go into executive session.
Yes, I would. Please. So I would make a motion to enter into executive session, and I'm stalling for Brian to.
For evaluation of an employee.
Okay. So I'd make that motion.
Oh, seconded. I'm on a roll today.
You
Okay.
are.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, then we now make a motion. I will make a motion to go into executive session at 8:17.
I will second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Where are we gonna go? Okay, yeah, it will, executive session at
But like, when
8:28.
growing up, there was a, my dad,
8:28
someone
with
would
no
call for
action
it. He'd be
taken.
like, oh, can you come and play music for us? And we'd be like, oh,
You mean-
the Don that plays the tuba.
Yeah.
I got these.
Well, at least you always had his phone number. Somebody's name.
So we can do,
All right, personnel. So, moving along to committee reports, we will start with personnel. That's you, Len.
thank you, sir. Couple of things. First off, I have a resignation from Jacob Tanner as the varsity girls basketball coach. And I would like to make a motion that we accept that resignation.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. Next, we have another resignation. She's Cindy Van Deen, who's a 4th grade paraeducator at Clarendon Elementary School, who has resigned. So I would make a motion that we accept her resignation as well.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next. If we're not having a personnel meeting, we're having a personnel meeting. I'd like to make a motion to hire Ken Webb as the interim head coach of the girls varsity basketball team.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And Pam, I'll give you a copy of this. Oh, you got it? Okay. Thank you. Discussion?
I'm assuming this stipend just covers whatever is left of the period.
Yes. Yeah. It's a, what do you call it?
Prorated?
Prorated. Thank you very much. I like folks when they know
You do
those
more
big
than just
words.
second things.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. And then, as an interim assistant coach for the girls' basketball team, Justin Heyer. So I would make that a motion.
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Sam. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. One more? No, two more. Interim assistant coach for girls' basketball, Tessa Davenport, and I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
You guys are voting before
Love it.
Thank you.
Tessa worked for me. She was a good basketball
Oh, yeah?
player. Yeah.
And then lastly, assistant coach for boys varsity basketball, Travis Fish, and I would make that a motion.
Okay, I would second that motion.
I would like to second
Oh,
that
please,
one.
please.
He's a former student.
Deal. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you all very much for your patience.
Moving right along,
Little high, yeah.
next committee report would be policy.
We haven't had a policy meeting.
Our next policy meeting is next Tuesday, the 10th.
Okay.
At 5:30.
5:30?
Yep.
All right, Tuesday the 10th at 5:30. Moving along, buildings and grounds.
Doug is sick.
And we haven't had a meeting in quite a while, so, and I'm not even sure when the next meeting would be at this point.
We can
So,
check with Doug.
yeah, we'll check with Doug. Yep. No, other than that, no updates, I guess. Community engagement.
If you liked the policy update, you'll like ours. It's that our next meeting is on the 10th at 6:30 when policy has ended.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We have the following pay orders for approval from the general fund. We have a pay order in the amount of $31,051.55. We have a pay order in the amount of $1,553. From our after-school program, we have a pay order in the amount of $441.59. From our lunch program, we have a pay order in the amount of $51,028.98. And from our general fund, we have a pay order in the amount of $14,312.11 for a grand total of $98,387.23. For payroll this evening, dated December 30th, we have payroll in the amount of $10,377.58. Also dated December 30th, we have payroll in the amount of $619,901.33 for a grand total of $630,278.91. And I move that we accept and approve payroll and these pay orders as presented.
I'd love to second that motion.
Thank you, Sam. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you, folks. So that is 8 yays, no nays, and payroll and pay orders have been approved. And we don't have,
Matt, want to sign or?
Yep.
Motion to let Matt sign.
oh, thank you so much.
Great idea.
And I would like to make a motion to have our board co-chair sign payroll and pay orders this evening, please. So that's a
Second
motion.
that.
Thank you for the second, Paul. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is 8 yays, no nays. That has passed. Thank you so much. And thank you, Matt. I know.
Here.
I was noticing that. I'm like, you want my
Sign up
pink
for
No, I got it.
Need a stamp.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a broken pinky.
No, it's a broken hand.
Right? You
Broken
break
hand.
your pinky. Oh, God.
Yep.
It's 23.
Signature still looks pretty good.
I know,
Signature's
23,
already broken
so.
mine.
Haphazard.
Yeah, we could have made
All
up
right.
your signature and just pretended.
It's all right.
And then you were going to say that your next meeting
There's
was.
your pen back.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank
We don't have a next meeting scheduled, so it's going to be announced. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I felt good. All right, so moving on to Transact other legal business.
I have a couple things. One, I had thought the staffer position was gonna be on this agenda.
Were we gonna put it on this or the 18th? Maybe this and I missed it?
I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was.
Yep.
So I was curious whether anybody needed, Nick had, asked some questions and we hadn't actually gotten to talk to each other about it, but I think he'd be great. As long as you have availability and your schedule is relatively flexible to come to meetings occasionally and online meetings most of the time. I don't know if anyone else is fighting for that, but Melissa Connor would be very happy to have another person there. I had gotten dragooned into being program chair, so I don't know if she's gonna put you in that same slot if you run. And to have him do that, I had said I would stay until the budget passed this board, so I am resigning as of tonight. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Work hard.
Do we have to
Accept
accept that?
Resignation?
No.
I'm just asking.
We get to say no.
I mean, can you say no?
Resignation not accepted. I'm like, are you gonna hold
We
me
can
hostage?
accept it.
Like, how does this
Right.
work?
I always think that's so funny. Let's
But
just
I don't we need,
I think it wouldn't hurt to accept it.
I think we need an official.
for sure. Go for it.
Well, I would make a motion that, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to, but I think it needs to be official.
I agree.
That's just my opinion. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of Adrian Raymond as a Shrewsbury representative on the school board with regrets.
Thanks.
Seconded, regretfully.
Discussion? All those in favor? Enjoy.
Congratulations.
And you do already have somebody who's expressed interest in serving as interim, Andy Richards Peel, who would lend us.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if, Andy said he is available to come to the next meeting.
We'll put it on
He
the
was a
agenda.
little, is there anybody available to swear him in if he came to the next meeting, if you guys adopted his name?
Somebody from the town would have to do that, right?
I don't know if it's an individual town or if the board clerk
Oh.
from I don't know. But
Meaning,
he would come if, I mean, he asked, oh, are they gonna, were they
check.
thinking of doing it, tonight? And I said, I doubt it because I'm sort of.
We'll do the
surprised.
research.
How did
Yeah.
how did it?
I was gonna
how
say,
did it
when I
work
did
with you?
mine, I had to do mine with the town.
Yeah,
And then the board had to accept me.
right.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the agenda. We'll do the research to figure out who needs to
Okay,
do it.
great. Because he would be happy to come to the 18th.
And we can reach out, yeah.
I mean, and in full transparency, Cindy had, I don't know if she's made it known to anybody other than the select board in Shrewsbury that she was also interested, but I told her that there was somebody already. I don't know how that's going. It's not my deal. But
We'll reconnect with the select board. We'll put it on the agenda and we'll do the research. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so moving along.
Certainly like to bend your ear for 5 minutes before you run to the car.
Okay. I'm here.
The Stafford thing.
I figured.
It's icy. I will
Nick,
be
if
walking
it
slowly.
doesn't,
Yeah.
if it turns out that it doesn't work, I'll be the second. If it turns out that it doesn't
Oh,
work,
great.
out for
There's
you.
actually two
Josh.
people. That's wonderful.
We're in agenda building? Is that okay?
That's what we're moving on to next is agenda building.
Do we need to vote on Stafford rep or we just need to?
You need to vote on Stafford.
So we'll have that on the agenda for the next one too. We'll have Shrewsbury appointment on there. We do need to set school choice in and out numbers. That's something we do right on the heels of our tuition rates every year. And it's kind of crazy because I'm starting to get into territory of, oh, I've done this before, which is a really interesting feeling. I know. End of January, yeah. We are going to have our Shrewsbury presentation. So we're going to be, the plan was at Shrewsbury for the 18th. And then we had a request from the public to put an item on the agenda.
Yeah, it was the policy B3 complaint against Bruce Moore.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be on there as well.
Make a suggestion. I thought this board had agreed, and since I don't really care, I can say this. Are you guys crazy trying to drive up into Shrewsbury on the 18th after driving down here? The roads were miserable. I thought we weren't going to...
We did talk about it again, and folks seemed okay with it.
I thought we were going to have meetings at Mill River during the winter.
Yeah.
The Shrewsbury's in the room had said, if y'all are feeling like cowboys, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I'm feeling sorry for y'all, but...
My only thought process is if we're going to be talking about filling the Shrewsbury position, we're better to do it than at Shrewsbury.
And I remember when we looked at the last, hey, we're going to hit every school, we said if we skip one, then all of a sudden it doesn't get plucked back in.
Yeah, so...
I'm not going.
I can't say you didn't warn them, Adrian.
There's no big snowstorm on the horizon.
Yeah, there's nothing
on the long range.
And worst case scenario, actually, it's probably a good conversation to have. If it's a weather event on Wednesday, I think we should have a backup reschedule date. And I wonder if we don't,
Well, either that or could you co-warn it as...
Oh, no. Actually, we could do a emergency notice and it would just be virtual.
For sure.
I was just saying,
That's great. Let's do that.
Let's double check on that because I think some of those things are expiring in sometime in January, whether we can go fully virtual or not.
Oh.
We will check on the ability to do fully virtual or if we could do a last minute hybrid shift, and we'll communicate that clearly to you as soon as we know that.
And to be perfect, not all of our teachers live in Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
Right. So doing reports in the middle of January in the evening may not be what they necessarily. I mean,
that's a valid point.
Some of them do. I mean, the principal lives in Shrewsbury, so there are a fair number that live in Shrewsbury, but still, something to think about.
Thank you for that.
Other agenda items?
Is there anything else for agenda?
I feel you.
The only request I do make is in regards to Ken Fredette's policy B3 violation complaint against Bruce Morton. I ask that everybody please read the paperwork so we can actually have a discussion on it. Yep. So, thank you. And for you?
With the tuition rates, do we have to discuss or do anything with the Stafford tuition rate?
They set theirs and they've done that already, and they tell us what it is. So we just good thought.
Yep. Would the next one be an okay time to go over that safety assessment, or would you like to wait till February?
That'll be a 5-minute update. So I think if folks are comfortable with adding a 5-minute item,
that's fine. Yeah, go for it.
Let's do that.
Come to Shrewsbury, Jody.
Talk about safety.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
Road safety.
All right. So, any other agenda items? Hearing none, we will. Is there any other need for another executive session? I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
Sure.
All in favor? Good.
Off we go.
Sure, you're all in favor.
Hey,
8:43.